Here's what's coming into view on Elevating Denver for October 2025. Take a journey along the road to recovery.
If I can do it, anybody can do it.
One location provides survivors collaborative help.
Our partners that we have in this building are incredible.
And support sprouts out of the Women's Bean Project.
Everyone here is here to support you.
These stories and more are just ahead on Elevating Denver.
When I was growing up as a kid, I wanted to be like a counselor or, believe it or not, an officer, a cop with law enforcement. My childhood was basically, I was raised by my mother and my grandmother because my father was an alcoholic. I suffered from mental health for pretty much all my life. It got to the point where my depression was going like a downward spiral. It affected my anger a lot. That's why I ended up in jail, prison twice in Vegas, multiple times out here in Colorado. Ended up relapsing, using my drug of choice as pretty much as a scapegoat. It was hard. I ended up in the jail down the street from here. As soon as I got out, I was slipping right back into my drug of choice. Sure enough, I ended up in hospitals when IVs in my neck being sedated. Nurses tell me, "Oh, did you realize that you attacked a cop last night?" I never knew that. I never do things like that. And I know I'm better than that.
Roads to Recovery is a system of care for people who are struggling with addiction, mental health, and behavioral health needs. Our goal is really to divert people out of the justice system and into services to support stability. We do that by meeting people where they're at, giving them a choice on what they would like their stability journey to look like or their recovery journey to look like, and then supporting them through that whole process.
I have been working with James here for about 1.5 years now. He has definitely gone through it all. Peak addiction, lots of justice involvement, homelessness, severe and persistent mental health. All of those factors have made it really difficult for him to kind of get back on his feet and break those habits, those cycles. At the beginning, James was always in crisis. He always needed like the top level of support. He couldn't process any of it on his own. He didn't have people in his corner that could teach him how to do that.
So James is in charge of the chore board. So 1 week you might be unloading the dishwasher. 1 week you might be taking out the trash. Everybody gets a chance to do all the chores because that's what it takes to live on your own anyway. James is a great guy. Really, he is. I think through his addiction, he lost who he was.
When we are able to divert people out of the justice system and into the coordinated system of care, it really helps get to the root of the issue of why they continue to go to jail. And so if they're getting picked up on trespassing charges or low-level drug charges, and we're able to connect them with a service to help solve what the root of that issue is, rather than going to jail, they're able to learn pro-social activities. They're able to have these life skills, and instead of using the justice system, they're able to really get back on their feet in a different way with support from the program.
All the teams that helped me, like Second Chance, my Sober Living House Mentor Country, Roads to Recovery, my therapist, all my teams behind me, I can't do without them. Sometimes when stuff gets rough, I try my best to handle myself, but if I know I can't, pick up my phone, call for help.
All these different people and organizations fill a unique need. You can look at him as a holistic person and everything helps him in a different way. We can't just do it with one resource or one person. All of these things come together and really lift him up.
What Roads to Recovery sets out to do is flip the way the system works, that when someone is ready for services, we are ready with a menu of options for on-demand access. Everyone's journey is different, and so it's really important for us to be able to provide a variety of services in real time so that people can choose what is that next best step for them, and then we support them along that journey.
James has come so far, and I think this is the first time in his adult life that he really feels good about himself again.
I would like to see James back into the workforce here in the next 4 to 5 months and get him earning a paycheck, and let's work a budget and try to get him into an apartment where he can have his life back, you know?
It means the world to me. I just want to let the world know, if I can do it, anybody can do it. They just got to go out there and, search for those resources. That's why when I'm out in the community and I see somebody struggle, I'm like, hey, are you all right? No, like if you're going through something, let me know and I'll be that ear to, listen to you.
Our long-term goal for Roads to Recovery is to be able to serve more people who are interested in accessing services.
I always want to, pay it forward to help out anybody I can when I can. If you want that help, there's help out there for you. You just got to go out there and reach for it.
No one ever thinks that they're going to be in the position to need us until they are. If you are a family member or you have a loved one in your life who says that they've experienced sexual violence, the first thing that you can say to them is, I believe you and I'm here for you. You don't have to ask a lot of questions around what happened. You don't have to be the investigator.
Domestic violence can include physical violence between intimate partners. It can also include harassment between intimate partners. It can be sexual violence between intimate partners. We also have sextortion. There's several crimes that kind of cross over between domestic violence and sex crimes.
People sometimes, because they love their loved one, they want to just jump in and be really, really helpful. They want to know all of the information, but the survivor may not remember all of the information. They may not have all of the details that you're looking for. And so just by saying that you believe them and that you're there for them is going to go a long way. And then just supporting them and connecting to the right resources.
For domestic violence victims, I think reassuring them that they're going to have someone with them every step of the way to get over all of those obstacles is what helps them to be successful.
The Roseanum Center is a family justice center. Even if you don't know what to do, we can help you. So if somebody comes in, they'll do an initial intake with the staff at the Roseanum Center. And during that intake, they will be asked a lot of questions and just to really get to, okay, what is this person needing? What have they experienced? And then the resource advocate would be able to determine from that information what services might be the most helpful, and they'll talk with the survivor around that. That might look like housing, food assistance. They might need to make a statement to the police. They might need a health exam. It doesn't matter what it is, we're going to be with you along the way for every single step. We are a nonprofit, but we partner with public entities like the police department to come together to provide resources for the people who come into this building.
My sex crimes unit has 12 detectives, so I review every case and then I assign it to a detective, and they go to work on the case that they got that day, plus working on all of the other cases that they've been assigned.
The city investing in having the DPD units here shows a strong support for this work and continued investment in the work. Our services are not contingent on anybody talking to the police, and that's really important for us. This is a trauma-informed space, and we really do lead with the victims and what is right for them. And we want to really assess that for every single person who is here with us. It really creates that safe space, which is really what's important for the Roseanum Center to offer to our community. And it also helps that victim to not have to tell their story over and over and over, which can be incredibly re-traumatizing. When a victim goes in to give a statement into a police station, they might go through a metal detector. They're in this slightly more harsh environment. When they go into the Roseanum Center, they can give that statement in a really trauma-informed, softer environment. We also have the ability to turn on and record in these rooms as well.
Once the detective is done speaking with the victim about their case, we can then, what we call, kind of do a soft pass off to the Roseanum Center, and then they can offer our victim any resources that they have here. That might include how to obtain a restraining order. It could be financial, maybe they need some temporary housing. There's just various resources that we can offer our victims.
A lot of our clients need to see a provider who is trauma-informed and trauma-trained, and the team here is so special. When a client comes in, if they need a health exam, it's right here. We are lucky enough to have a Denver Health Clinic inside of our building. So that might look like a forensic exam, but it also might just look like a wellness exam.
Some survivors, the event has been very immediate, it's very acute, and so we can support survivors in that crisis intervention and just make sure that they're connected to the right services to stabilize. Or someone may have experienced something 10 years ago, but they're ready to talk about it. And so we are available to offer therapy in person or virtually. Our case managers are available to meet with people in person or virtually.
One of our other intake rooms is a really important room because it can connect to the courthouse. Not all of our clients can safely appear in court or want to appear in court. This room can safely accommodate that with the assistance of one of our attorneys, and it's just a really nice extra that we're able to offer at the Rosandom Center. Our partners that we have in this building are incredible. We have CCASA, we have Blue Bench, we have Project Safeguard. They are experts in their field. We have a special team that we call the high risk team, and they do safety planning, making sure that those clients who are in the absolute highest level of crisis have hands-on support.
So it can really vary depending on what the survivor needs. And then talk with them about next steps. And then we set up follow-up times. We make sure that they're connected to services after that. We also have all of our services in English and in Spanish.
The entire model is good for victims because in the past, you could send them away with pamphlets or written material, and they might have to go to one place to get a restraining order, they might have to go to another place for victim advocacy services, another place for therapy. And that's just not ideal, but with the Family Justice Center model and with the Rosandom Center, it brings it all to one place so that the victim doesn't have to go everywhere.
So whether that's the Rosandom Center or calling the Blue Bench has a 24-hour hotline, please utilize those services, and you can support your loved one in calling, or you can call on their behalf and just start that process.
We also just have a space that's here for our community, and we want people to come here and use it as such. So maybe you just need a safe space to be for a few hours. You can come here at the Rosandom Center and do that.
On an opening exhibition night, I will say it's a little bit scary. Will people understand it? But because I work with this fabulous team, you've got it to a point where it makes sense and people are going to read it. That's what's really, really amazing for me, is to see people connect with the material that I've been thinking so deeply about for the last 7 months. Could you pull up just the first section that people will encounter when they walk in?
We're going to have the glass doors up front, our 38 star flag under a bonnet, and we'll have the image of fireworks behind it. And our introduction text is going to be on the outside glass.
Yes.
And that'll be a nice moment for people to kind of soak it in.
The concept for 38 Star came in large part from the upcoming anniversary, celebrating Colorado's 150th birthday in 2026. But of course, that itself is not an exhibit.
The very first goal that I had to meet was, what is the story? How can we tell this in a way that people will find interesting, that people will connect with and find relevant? So I dig into books, I dig into archives, and I realized statehood wasn't just a one-time thing. We didn't just waltz up and say, hey, we're Colorado and we want to be a state. It was a process that happened between 1859 and 1876. And so once I realized that, it was like, oh, well, but why didn't we become a state in 1859? Why didn't we become a state in 1865? Why are we the centennial state? Because of 1876. And that kind of helps shape the story from there.
We're not just thinking about the words. We are also designing an entire experience. Our visual storytelling is absolutely just as important as the words we put on the wall. And what's really tremendous about History Colorado is that we are a museum that still has in-house designers.
So I know what the story is about, and I start talking about mood and color and feeling. What do we want visitors to experience as they're walking through the space, and what do we want the main takeaway to be?
I think we can think of like a nice image that kind of just sets the tone. Maybe if we have coal mines over here, or we can think of something else that kind of resonates with the content on this wall.
And we try to start fitting all of the text and the objects into the space and find a good flow that makes sense. And then we start figuring out interactives or fun features that are nice and big and graphic that'll draw people in, and where are the most important parts for people to really engage with. So that way we make sure people understand the story by the end of the exhibit.
I am in constant awe of the magic that our design team produces. For me, I'm so, deep in the weeds with thinking about words and storylines and, how to put this 10 years of history in a 50-word panel, that to see the design team take that and be able to conceptualize it and visualize it and put it in a 3D space is incredible. And I am blown away with kind of how this is shaping up.
Over here, we want to have the Southern Colorado story, right? And you were talking about getting a tapestry back here?
Yes, yeah, some kind of textile piece.
This is where we store all of our textiles. Picking flags was really difficult because we have a lot of 38 star flags, so many. The idea starts to develop. I start thinking about what physical objects could tell that story.
We work really closely with our curatorial staff, and they have the institutional knowledge of what we actually have. And so even just from there, I might be able to say from a development perspective, we need to talk about the railroad, but I don't know what we have in the collection for the railroad. They know, and so then they go and find all these fabulous ideas of what to put in.
We're looking for a story. Our job is to tell the stories of all Coloradans. And then they would pull it out to the length that they needed. And that's how they survey land.
For me as a developer, it was really important for me to research all sides of this story, historical sources, more recent sources, and pull everything together to tell a complete and full story. So I would say one of the reasons that people could trust what they're seeing here at History Colorado is just because this whole team has been working on uncovering these sources, uncovering these stories that are established in the research that we're presenting.
We have our exhibition developers working alongside our mount maker and our fabricators to get everything in place, and it really, I think, brings us together. We inspire each other. It makes that opening night really special because we've been working on something for months and months, and we finally get to share it. There's so much when you work on something creative that all the energy and frustration and excitement that goes in finally feels worth it once you get to see other people interact with it.
It's a little dangerous to work in this building because you have access to all of these things at the same time. I have to kind of stay away from all of the gummy and candies because I could eat them every day. They are one of my personal favorites. I'm obsessed with the cashews.
I think I like the brownies. I like the brownies, they're really good. My favorite, probably the candy. I think I just have kind of a sweet tooth.
The nourishing of ourselves in terms of the food that we sell, which is intended to be wholesome, good food that you can make at home and create wonderful meals for yourself and your family, does have a ripple effect that nourishes the women in our program in a wide variety of ways.
The Women's Bean Project to me means community. It's somewhere where you can walk in these doors and not feel judged about who you are, where you came from, or the things that you've been through, and you can really just be yourself. And when you walk through the building, you just know that everyone here is here to support you, and they want you to succeed, and they want you to further your life and better your life in positive ways.
So the Women's Bean Project is a nonprofit social enterprise that does transitional employment opportunities for women who faced chronic barriers to unemployment. Those barriers can be for a variety of reasons. It can mean anything from facing homelessness to addiction to incarceration to a variety of different factors. And we provide an opportunity for women to get hired into our program, work full-time. They get to learn and train and work in our food manufacturing business, making all of the products that you see behind me. And they also get wraparound supports while they're here. So they have case management, they get human services supports like medical, health, dental screenings. They do classes on conflict management, on budgeting, on healthy eating, on all sorts of things that help support the whole other part of their life outside of the business. And so between those two things, we're able to create an environment that really lays a foundation for women to have a more successful path moving forward, finding jobs and supporting themselves and their families in a way that they weren't able to before they came to the Bean Project. What you're seeing in the store around me is that we have over 50 products in our product line. We sell all sorts of different products that you can buy to help support the Bean Project. But also what we care a lot about is product quality. So we want you to be able to buy something because it's wonderful and because it has a tremendous impact in the community.
The most rewarding part of this program was that I didn't have to take no for an answer anymore. I learned that there were supports around me that could help me and give me the resources to be able to advocate for myself. When I started here, I was going through a lot of struggles in life. Like, I was still technically homeless. I was fresh out of my addiction. I didn't have custody of my son. And I was just really trying to stabilize myself, and being here and having the support of everyone in this building helped me to, find permanent housing, helped me to get custody of my son back. It's given me a paycheck, and I get money that I've earned honestly, and it's such a great feeling.
When I got here, I actually had no idea what I wanted to do after this, but luckily, when I got here, I, worked with the CEO team, and I actually just finished my paralegal a few weeks ago.
What brings me the most joy is getting to see others who have been through some of the struggles in life that I've been through, seeing them overcome those struggles and succeed and be able to take care of themselves and just be stable, and just getting to see them succeed in their goals is just a really great feeling.
We look at each individual participant and we're really invested in her as a whole person. And that means what's going to be most helpful for her at home, with her family, in her community, and for her as a future employee of a different organization. We need to really invest in the whole self, but we also like to think of the ripple effect that happens across the community, because each woman that's able to get through the program, graduate, and get a job and go support her family outside of her time at the Bean, the ripple effect of that lasts generationally. We're supporting her children, her community, her employer, her family, and herself.
The wraparound services were great. It made it so much easier to accomplish the goals that I came in here to accomplish. When you're out there and you don't have access to any resources, or you don't know where to turn for certain things, it's really frustrating, and you want to just give up and say, it's easier just to do the wrong thing. But instead, you have people here pushing you, guiding you, and helping you, along the right path to meet all of the goals that you wanted to meet.
They helped me to not only work on my professional life, but my personal life at the same time. And it's just been vital to me, setting goals, obtaining goals, and just for everything in my life. It's awesome.
We know that the women in the program that are reconnected with their families, reconnected with their children when they have children, or are employed in other organizations, are making a huge difference in their community, for their employers, for their families, and for themselves in a way that we like to think would not have been possible without the support of the Bean Project. But we know those seeds of success are within each woman herself. We're really just creating the fertile ground for her to be able to grow in the way that works best for her.
We're exploring new frontiers. When I first started working in government innovation, the new technology was the internet. Okay, so now it's AI, and I think we're hearing from private sector entrepreneurs and from government users what the future looks like.
The closer you can get to the use case for the person, the more likely they are to adopt it.
The focus of DenAI 2.0 is AI-powered cities of the future. What does that mean? It means how can we increase efficiency? How can we digitize more of our services? How can we serve more residents with the same resources or even maybe lesser resources, right? AI brings a lot of efficiencies when done right, responsible use, and how do we ensure that we are giving the residents the best resident experience when they are interacting with us?
We're setting a precedent for other cities and states in the public sector specifically to look to what Colorado is doing in the city of Denver and use that as an example to help them light some urgency and catalyze the work that they're doing. Government and public sector is slower to adopt technology. I think hosting a conference like this is to make it accessible and for folks who work in the public sector to see this intersection of we can have innovation, we can have this incredible software, and the ease of implementation is not as hard as maybe previous technology was. Sitting at this intersection of can we use AI to solve public and private sector problems, and can the adoption of that actually help us accomplish our cities, our states, our country's goals faster?
What we find is most effective is all the least sexy parts of artificial intelligence. What we're doing is how do we find ways to make your permitting process go faster? How do we find ways to make sure inspectors get to your house more regularly? How do we find ways to make sure every paper you have to submit to the city gets reviewed more quickly so that we can help city employees spend time on the things that only humans can do, but we can use artificial intelligence to make those services faster and cheaper and more reliable. So for us, it's about those core, simple public services that are often not newsworthy, but they are important if you're someone that's waiting 30 days to get a notification on a permit when you can do it in 1 second.
Finding efficiencies with AI makes us maybe find more time, which we can use to be more creative, do more value-add services for our residents, make sure that we are being very human with our residents with that time that we have.
Yeah, I think time is the most valuable resource we all have. If you want to be home with your family or you want to be getting back to your day job or you got a short break to come by and try to get a piece of city business done. And that time is so valuable to our employees. If we can help get through tasks faster, it leaves more time for them to be able to focus on other needs. So we think this efficiency both leads to a better operating government that costs less, and it leads to employees who can feel more successful in their jobs and really focus on the parts of the job they love to do and not the parts that sometimes they feel stuck doing.
With Colorado being the 5th largest venture ecosystem in the country and being an innovation hub, I think it's important for our city to put a spotlight on that and to show it's not just the private sector that's leveraging this technology to enhance the well-being of our community.
So I see the role of Chief Artificial Intelligence and Information Officer as a way for us to look at the technology landscape within the city and county of Denver, but looking at it from a much more structured data lens, as well as creating efficiencies with the use of this very fast processing power that's being offered to us by AI.
I understand the cautionary tale around people being afraid of jobs being taken, and I actually think new jobs are going to be created as a result of AI.
These are balanced conversations. These are the thoughtful, thought-provoking conversations, and we want to be able to go in with questions that are very important from a human aspect and a technology aspect. I truly feel it's my sacred responsibility to safeguard people's privacy, confidentiality, use pieces of information only for outcomes and insights, and be very resident-focused and human-focused.
As the internet proved when we introduced government to the internet and the internet to government, I think it'll be adopted pretty quickly. We will learn a lot along the way. We will have to make sure that there are real human beings involved in these processings. And everybody who spoke here today was very cognizant of the importance of having humans in the loop. So I think we'll learn that. And my guess is just as 32 years ago, the internet was brand new, in 32 years, we'll see some of this as just standard operating procedure.
Stay elevated by subscribing to the city's YouTube page. And stay tuned to our social media channels for more content. Don't miss our new episodes of Elevating Denver premiering each month. Thanks for watching, Denver.